The similarities between the killing of Trayvon Martin and Ahmaud Arbery and what happened in the aftermath are just eerie. First of all, both Trayvon and Ahmaud was killed in the month of February. Trayvon Martin was killed in Sanford, Florida on February 26, 2012, and Ahmaud Arbery was killed in Brunswick, Georgia on February 23, 2020. If Trayvon Martin and Ahmaud Arbery were living today, they both would be 26 years old. When you think about Trayvon Martin in 2012, his killer asserted that he believed Trayvon Martin was committing burglary or was looking to burglarize property, some apartments. Well, when you look at Ahmaud Arbery, his killers assert that Ahmaud was attempting to commit some kind of burglary or was in the commission of a burglary. When you look at Trayvon Martin in 2012, his killer was armed and yet killed Trayvon Martin and said self-defense of some sort and got to go home and sleep in his bed at night. When you look at Ahmaud Arbery in 2020, his killers were armed. Ahmaud was unarmed like Trayvon, and yet his killer said it was a life or death situation and asserted some self-defense argument, and they got to go home and sleep in their beds at night. When you look at Trayvon Martin's killer, he had a quasi-law enforcement relationship. Remember, he was the neighborhood watch volunteer captain, and we must remember his father was a magistrate judge. When we look at the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, his killer, Greg McMichael, also had a quasi-law enforcement relationship because he was a retired police officer and a detective for the DA's office for almost 30 years. When you look at Trayvon Martin in 2012, we remember there was a 911 call made where we heard his killer's voice describe why they believed Trayvon was up to no good. Well, in 2020, there's a 911 tape that you hear the killers of Ahmaud Arbery that say Ahmaud is suspicious and up to nefarious activity. When you think about Trayvon Martin in 2012, it took weeks with great public outcry before there was an arrest. When you think of Ahmaud Arbery in 2020, it was weeks without an arrest until you had great public outcry. When you think of Trayvon Martin in 2012, it was not until the state police, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, took over the investigation that you finally got an arrest. Well, it wasn't until the Georgia State Police got involved in Ahmaud Arbery, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, when you finally got an arrest. And then with Trayvon Martin and Ahmaud Arbery, you have objective evidence of a pursuit. With Trayvon Martin, it is audio. We hear it. We hear the pursuit. We hear Trayvon running for his life. And then you hear the gunshot. And you know that that bullet went in Trayvon's heart through that hoodie. With Ahmaud Arbery, the biggest distinction is we get to visually witness the pursuit. We see him being chased by his killers with the shotgun and the .357 Magnum gun. And we actually get to see this execution with our eyes. And that is the great distinction between the tragic killing of Trayvon Martin on February 26, 2012, and the tragic killing of Ahmaud Arbery on February 23, 2020. And so we are cautiously optimistic because we have video and we can actually see Ahmaud being executed, that his killers will be held accountable. The main thing, as I talked with Attorney Merritt and Attorney Stewart and the rest of our legal team, is that we have to stay vigilant on making sure the prosecutor zealously prosecutes the killers of an unarmed black person. We cannot take for granted that they're going to be as zealous in their prosecution of the killers of these young men as they would if the roles were reversed. And that is the great lesson, that we have to give them all the supporting resources and documents, even though we are private citizens and we do not have any power or authority. It is the prosecutors and only the prosecutors who can charge people and make sure people are prosecuted. It's not the private lawyers. We're the family attorneys. The only power we have is to bring a civil lawsuit, a civil wrongful death lawsuit. In those cases, we always prevail. We always win. It's just the prosecutors, when it comes to prosecuting white people for killing black people, seem to not be able to secure prosecutions.